Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, sir.
Guys, please try to maintain the decorum of the meeting. And if you have any query, do write in the chat box and don't unmute yourself. If you have any queries, we will ask you to unmute and then you can speak. It's good to see that everyone is engaging so nicely and answering my questions. So, good evening, everyone. My name is Rehan Ahmed, your lovely host, and I really welcome each and every one of you to this charismatic evening. I hope everyone knows today's the session. What is it all about? Today we are going to talk how to get a. It is just a beginner's guide how to get into Microsoft. So without wasting our time, let's start today's session. I would request Harsh to present a PPT on today's guest, Miss Muskan Jain, ma'am.
Yeah, sure. Just give me a moment, please.
Yeah. And I just wanted to ask, everyone is comfortable with English, right? You can write it in the chat box.
Rehan, is it visible?
Yeah, it is visible. Thank you for sharing it. So yeah, everyone is comfortable with it. Just a sec. Yeah. Can you share the next slide, please?
Wait a minute. Let me mute myself.
Yeah. So as you know, student organization StudNet under the aegis of Division Student Welfare, Lovely Professional University. It is an organizing guidance talk cum webinar on the topic A Beginner's Guide for Getting into Microsoft by Muskan Jain, who is currently a software engineer at Microsoft. Can we jump to the next slide? Yeah, so today, let me tell you what we are going to talk about. We are going to talk about education, skills, certification, experience, and accomplishments. So basically, it's going to be a great session today, and all your doubts will be cleared one by one. So next slide, please. Yeah, so Muskan Jain ma'am has done her BTech in electrical, electronics and communication engineering, and she started her journey from 2017 and she graduated at 2021. Next slide, please. Her skills include data science, C++, GIT. I hope everyone knows about these things. You can write in the chat box. Everyone knows about C++, right? Yeah, okay. So next slide, please. Her certification includes Google IT automation with Python, 30 days of Google Cloud, architecting with Google Compute Engine specialization. Next slide, please. Her experiences include control and instrumentation trainee, data analyst intern, project intern, software. Right now, she is currently a software engineer at Microsoft. Next slide, please. Her accomplishments includes brain MRI image segmentation, credit card fraud detection, coronavirus voice assistance. That's a great work done by ma'am. Next slide, please. Yeah, thank you. So now I would like to request Muskan Jain ma'am to share her experiences. Over to you, ma'am.
Hi Rehan. Hi everyone.
Hi ma'am. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm fine, Rehan.
Hi ma'am.
Thank you, Rehan, for introducing me. I hope everyone is great. So basically, I don't just want to give everyone just an overview. I would kind of take you through my journey. So all of your questions are answered. because I had seen a lot of questions regarding how to get an internship in second year, or how should I start my journey from the beginning of college. So let me take you through my journey. So basically, first year, the first semester, we were introduced to Python in our campus. I was very interested in that class. I didn't have any prior CS experience or anything, but the coding with Python class really got me going. So for that whole semester, I was in touch with coding and everything. The second semester came and it was kind of a disaster actually. I got 5 backs in 5 different subjects. I got 5 backs, and so after that, it was obviously a very tough ride. My 1 year, basically the third and fourth semester, was spent in clearing those backs. At the end of second year, I also explored a bit about GSOC. GSOC is an open source program basically, but I couldn't really kind of go forward with GSOC because I wasn't selected for it. And so I did meet a few people who really pushed me to code, and but because I was having so many backs, I couldn't really afford to give time to anything else. But I did learn data science during my second year, and I did build some projects, basic projects like how to detect if the SMSs are spam or messages are spam or something like that. Now the third year started, and companies started coming for on-campus internships. I was someone who was not even aware that companies do come for on-campus internships. I didn't have much exposure. I hadn't interacted much with my seniors. The only seniors I had interacted with were not of my college. So they obviously couldn't give me much insight into my college processes. So, but yeah, like the season went on, the internship season went on, and I couldn't crack any internships. But yeah, this was the time also, like I got back to coding. I started learning C++, OOPS and everything. So since I was an EC student, we could, in our college, we could take some optional subjects which were related to EC, which were related to CSC, I'm sorry. So basically I had taken OOPS and OS, which is operating systems. So these 2 subjects I had studied in college itself. Now the third year came to an end, and COVID came and everything. So it was all messy. Like I couldn't crack any internships, and we had to come back to our homes and everything. Now I gave for third year female students, there is a program called Amazon Wow, right? So that program is actually kind of like I participated in their coding, in their online test. I was able to solve both the coding questions. The questions were quite simple, but the MCQs were something that were related to computer networks, database management, and operating systems, and based on OOPS and everything, which I didn't even know that these things were asked. So basically that exam helped me to know that these are also some things which I need to focus on. That is the core CS subjects. Now in the break between the third year and fourth year, I continued working on data science, and I built some better projects, which were kind of really big projects, which I deployed even as well. So these projects went in my resume. And the resume that I prepared in the beginning, it was complete garbage actually. So I had some help from my friends. They guided me that I should prepare this format for resume. I would get back to this later on a format for resume. Now fourth year came, and on-campus placements for fourth year students in VIT start from July. Whole July went, and I think I sat in 2 or 3 coding tests. I couldn't crack them. I didn't have much practice back then. And also I was from EC, and I was not even a 9-pointer. So opportunities are also less. VIT has too many students actually. So being a 9-pointer becomes a good criteria to be able to sit in almost all the placements. now I started I started seriously practicing after these. Around 20th August, I got my first interview, but it was for the role of site reliability engineer with Nutanix. And well, I didn't know much about computer networks, so as soon as they started going deep and started asking deep question, I couldn't just answer, and just it just blew. So after that, basically a company started coming, and I was getting selected for a few interviews, but they won't go well because of something or the other. Now, like Goldman Sachs had an kind of off-campus hiring for everyone. So for the 2021 people who are going to pass out in 2021, so I was able to crack the APTI round. Now this actually got me very fired up, and I began a very serious preparation at this point of time. Like companies that were coming on my campus, sometimes what would happen was I would realize that it has been labeled as software, but as I would proceed further for the interview rounds, I would realize that this is not related to software. This is something just technical and not related to software. So I actually started quitting some kind of companies. I would just sit for the process because I felt it was a waste of time for them as well as for me. But yeah, I had the privilege that I could skip those companies, and my parents were very supportive in that process. So yeah, so basically then the second round for Goldman Sachs came, and I panicked a lot and I messed it up completely. Well, then after that, a few more months, like basically September, October passed on, and I did a lot of silly mistakes. I sat for fractal analytics process, and basically I answered the puzzles that they gave very confidently, and all my answers were wrong. So these kind of things happen, and it's just, you have to know that it's not your day. Sometimes some kind of technical issues also come up. For example, like I sat for Google's coding round as well, and like they had sent out coding round links to almost everyone who had applied, and so I sat for the exam, and as soon as I started the exam, a pop-up came. Now I couldn't cross the pop-up, or I would have to quit the exam. So basically I was sitting for an hour staring at the pop-up, not being able to solve anything. So it's very possible that you might face something like that. It's just, then you can't really do anything in that. Just have to go with it. Now, since my goal was to get placed by September, and that goal was not accomplished, I was at quite a low point right now. And then, like in VIT, the thing is that if you have not been selected for placement till now, you have to sit for all the service-based and mass recruiters, basically TCS, Infosys, and Cognizant. So I sat for Cognizant. I sat for all three of them, obviously. I had to. And then for TCS, I was aiming for the TCS Digital, which is basically a 7 lakh package. But since I think this was the first time for them also holding online rounds and everything, so there were some issues with their compilers, some problem with their coding platforms. So like there were test cases which were wrong, and the code would not pass. So I was able to crack TCS Mass actually by that time. Then at the end of October, there was a site named cutshot.io. I applied through this site, and I was able to crack a data analyst internship at a startup. And I started working at the startup from November. And after that, actually, a lot of things followed. I would call this internship a kind of a lucky charm for me, maybe. I was able to crack on-campus internship for Collins Aerospace around this time. And for November, like in November, I also kind of completed the 30 days of Google Cloud program. And also, I actually cleared the MTS certification, which is a Microsoft Technology Associate for Introduction to Python Programming. Then, like in the beginning of December, I sat for Oracle on campus. I was basically interviewed for around 5 to 6 hours in 3 different rounds. One of the rounds actually went for 2.5 hours. and it was not just focused on my coding or anything. I was basically asked to design a calculator in such a way that if it goes through a QA, like if it goes through testing, then the tester should not be able to find any mistakes in that particular program. So that was a very long discussion. Then he actually asked questions regarding semiconductors and questions related to EC to me. So sometimes, like if you have a different branch, you might get the questions which are different from CSC. Then, but the final list came and my name was not there. Like that seriously crushed me because I had basically given an interview for 5 to 6 hours. And I was continuously applying for off-campus placements and everything continuously, and my inbox would be filled with at least 4 to 5 rejection mails every day. That was the entire scenario that was going on through the year. And in fact, even with Microsoft, I had got rejected 6 to 7 times before already, for a data scientist position, for an ML engineer position, for a software engineering position, for internship, for basically everything that I had applied to, I would get rejected. Then in January, I actually participated in Cryo's Winter of Doing program. This program was quite good for me because I actually met a number of people who were very helpful, and they were actually very good people. So at the end of January, there was a Women in Tech conference, and I attended that. The conference was hosted by Microsoft, and so after that conference got over, 2 to 3 days later, a few girls got mails from Microsoft itself that please apply for this position, and we have to fill a form and everything. Whoever filled the form and applied for the position got a coding link. Then there was a coding test. After the coding test, there were basically 3 medium medium difficulty questions in the coding test. Then the coding test got over, and I got selected after the coding test. Now we had to kind of go for a hackathon that went on for around 48 to 56 hours. In this hackathon, basically, we didn't have to group up or anything. We just had to participate individually, and we were assigned mentors that would help us develop the web apps. We were given themes, 5 themes. We had to choose one theme, and we had to then accordingly build a web app. At this stage, I had never built a web app. I had just started learning JavaScript a few days ago, and HTML, CSS. I knew basic HTML, CSS, and I had started learning JavaScript a few days ago. I was very honest with my mentor from the start that I have never built a web app. So how do I build a web app in 3 days when I have never built one before? So I actually kind of explored a bit, and I had a few friends. So they told me the correct resources. I studied the basics. I tried building a web app. Like I built a basic to-do app on my own, and then a few other things that I could explore on my own. Basically, in this hackathon, they needed a few things. Your idea should be innovative. Whatever you are mentioning in your idea, like if you're mentioning 4 tasks in your idea, then at least 1 task should be complete. Don't do 4 tasks incomplete. Rather focus on completing at least 1 task. You had to build a good description of the project. The project had to be hosted on GitHub. So basically on GitHub, there's a file called a README file, which gives the description of the project. So I had to prepare a whole description of the project, what tech stack was used, in what cases it would fail, what are the problem I am trying to solve, what are the different kinds of areas that this app is exploring, and everything. So I did build the web app, and then 2 days later, after the hackathon, I was interviewed by my mentor. So basically in this interview, he looked at the code, and he kind of asked me a few questions related to logic and a few technical questions here and there. and also the apps that I had built for practicing. He asked me to showcase those apps as well. So yeah, so and after that, this basically went on for around 45 minutes. This process, this interview. A few days later, I got the call for my second interview. I was not at my home at that time. I was outside, and so basically, it was kind of the last slot left. So I had my interview the next day itself, and I was not at all kind of. I was already in a phase where I was preparing, but yeah, so I had to revise a lot in that one day itself. Then in the interview for around 15 minutes, I was asked on machine learning questions and on projects in my resume. Then after that, I was asked to solve 3 coding questions. I was able to solve 2 of them completely. For the third coding question, I started and then I gave a solution. The interviewer tweaked the question a bit. He modified the question a bit, and then I had to come up with the solution for that question. And by the time I started to actually write the code, time was over. And then he basically asked me if I wanted to ask him something. Now here I had actually been told who would interview me, so I actually kind of searched them on LinkedIn and kind of went through their profile and everything. So whatever things I found were relevant to that particular person, I did ask them. I tried to kind of ask different questions like how is the work culture and what has kept you in this place for so many years. These kind of questions, and what is like whatever domain you're working in, what really interests you in that particular domain, something like this. Then after that, I received a call a few days later. I actually missed one call in between. My phone was on silent and I missed the call. And I was in a very panicky mode for about 5 days till the recruiter called back. But yeah, so and after that I had another interview. Basically, this was a managerial plus technical interview. So I was given one lengthy coding question. I was able to get the logic and the code as well as the code in around 20 minutes. In the first coding interview, my interviewer did not ask me to run the codes and see if the logic is right or if it is giving correct results. He just explored the various base cases and everything. In this second interview, I was actually asked to run my code on Codility and see if the output was right or not. So, like, there can be very different kinds of interviews that you might give. Some might be on a text, some might be on just an editor, some might be in an actual coding environment. So that really depends on the interviewer. And basically, at the end, I was asked what sets me apart from others. So, since I was an EC student, I had. I'm sorry. Since I was an EC student, so I had basically learned everything online. So basically, this was something I highlighted to my interviewer, that this is something I've done on my own. So I'm a good learner, and I very much believe in self-learning. And a few days later, I think around 2 or 3 days later, I got the call that I have been selected for Microsoft as a software engineer. Now around this time, actually, this was around March. Yeah. Like in February, I received the offer from Oracle as well, the one where I had been interviewed for 6 hours. Then I was actually already doing an internship with a startup, and around like since my placement cell actually did not allow me to continue an off-campus internship, I had to go for the on-campus internship. And from March to June, I was doing an internship with Collins Aerospace. This was basically an internship on embedded systems. Basically, I was designing the software for embedded systems. And also around this time, I got, like in March itself, I got the Kaggle BIPOC grant. Like Kaggle is basically a place which kind of holds data science competitions and everything. So yeah, ML. So I got the scholarship for that. I was kind of selected from around 7,000 students all around the world, and only 49 students were selected. They were assigned top mentors from data science, and for 3 months I basically gave a lot of competitions on Kaggle, and I actually met a very good mentor who really helped me a lot, and that was a very good exposure. Now, as this program ended, it was in around mid-June that this program ended. Now, I also, since I had completed 30 days of Google Cloud, they kept sending updates for further processes and all. So I had applied. So I had actually filled the form for Google Cloud Career Readiness mentorship program. Basically, I had to mentor students. So I got selected for that. And like me and one more student from my college, we were assigned around 51 students whom we had to mentor. Like help them complete the various Google Cloud courses and all this. So, and then from July I joined Microsoft as a software engineer, and since 3 months I have been there. So that's my journey. Also, yeah, Rehan, go on.
I would like to thank you, ma'am, for sharing your amazing experiences of your life with us, and definitely it will help us, many of us in this meeting. And I would like to congratulate you also that apart from these hurdles also, like these hurdles didn't stop you from achieving what you achieved.
Thank you, Rehan.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. And now the most awaited part of our session, queries. First, I would like to ask questions from the online sector one. So just give me 1 second, ma'am. Yeah, so we have got few questions from online, those who have registered online. So the first question is, being a female, I have went through a lot of corporate sector. How is the work environment for women in corporate sector?
So basically, I would, I think, yeah. The thing is that in corporate sector, at least in MNCs like Microsoft, I cannot say for every other company, but for my company, I would say that you don't feel any different. You feel included. The work environment really feels safe and inclusive. I am the only girl in a team of 9 people, and I actually have never felt that I am being sidelined or someone is being biased towards me, or I am being approached in a wrong way or anything. So I think the work environment in corporate sector is quite good, and like everyone is so helpful actually that it's very good actually.
Okay, thank you so much. The next question we have is, what are SDESs, and what if I want to be a data analyst or a data scientist? How to make that transition?
So basically, SDs are software development engineers. So basically, these are people who develop all kinds of softwares, be it web apps, Android or iOS apps, or native apps, which are basically the apps we see on desktop. Like if you're using MS Word on desktop, that is a native app for MS Word. Data analysts are people who scrape and analyze the data for further processing. I have been a data analyst intern as well. Like I told you, I worked at a startup. That startup was named ClueTrack Software, and so basically I was a data analyst intern there. My main role would be scraping the data and analyzing the data, and yeah, so that is a thing for a data analyst. As for a data scientist, to be honest, like these data scientists actually includes everything: a data analyst, an ML engineer, and all. But these kind of roles are very distributed in a company, and if you're in a big company, so it might depend actually. But mostly they would be the people who would be kind of playing with various algorithms to build the model and decide which algorithm suits the best. So for data analyst positions, you won't need much coding. It is a very easy switch. as for data scientist positions, you would need some kind of coding because you're trying to build some kind of model and that needs coding. And other things that you would need would be some mathematics and machine learning algorithms. So you have to learn that, build some projects, and then you would be able to make the transition.
Okay. So the next question is, what will you suggest to a person who has 6 months to land a job?
So basically 6 months is actually a lot of time. You can easily do it. Kind of, you have to just you have to focus on both coding and like both DSA and other fields that interest you. Basically, if you're interested in data science, then you have to build some projects related to data science and practice DSA as well. I would suggest kind of divide your day in 2 portions. Dedicate 1 portion to learning all the things related to data science or web development or whatever software engineering field choose, or you choose basically. And another portion of the day to practicing DSA. Because like when you're practicing DSA, you are actually solving problems. So you can't solve problems in a hurry. You have to kind of be very focused and be very concentrated for that. And whenever you decide that you want a break from DSA, then maybe you could focus on your core CS subjects like OS, DBMS, computer networks, system design, and all these things. As well as you could build the project related to the software engineering field you choose. Because actually once you start building a project, it gets so interesting that you do not want to do something else in between. So I would suggest that when you are building a project, just go with the flow.
Okay. Before we jump to the next question, guys present in the meeting, don't worry, your all doubts will be cleared one by one. We are just finishing the online questions first, those who have applied online. Then we will go on to you, okay? Don't leave the meeting also. Yeah. So the next question, ma'am, is that what is important, CGPA or skills? This is a question of many of us, like it's a common question.
So basically you cannot apply to big MNCs or product-based companies if you have backlogs. So you have to clear backlogs before applying. Another thing is if you are in a very crowded college like I was, then CGPA matters. Don't fall into this trap of that CGPA does not matter and all. Because CGPA matters if you're trying for a top MNC and all. See, India is a very populated country. There are a lot of people who are fighting for the same few seats, and they have to kind of filter it out. So they use CGPA as a criteria. So it would be good to have a CGPA of 8 or 8.5 plus. That would be a good thing to have. And other times you should focus on your skills. Obviously you need to have your skills in place. Otherwise, like your CGPA alone won't help you. The CGPA would help you in getting shortlisted, and to carry on further you need your skills. So you have to maintain a balance between both. But also like a lot of things are coming up, and a lot of good startups in India don't really care about your background or your qualifications, or if you have backlogs of CGPA. So you could start your journey there as well.
And the next question is, what is important, coding or personality and English?
So I would say English does not matter to an extent where that like if you're doing grammatical mistakes or like if you're doing basically grammatical mistakes, it does not matter. But you should be able to form good enough sentences in English that others are able to understand. So I would say coding and personality are very important. You are going to be working with people, right? If you are going to be working in a big company, you're going to be working with people. So you are expected to be humble, helpful, cooperative, and respectful to everyone. So like if you have some superiority complex or just are rude to others, you won't fit in there. You would be, I don't know, basically maybe you would be fired within a few months. So, and also if you are when you're giving the interview and the interviewer is able to sense some kind of superiority kind of complex from you, then you won't be able to crack further rounds. So, and if you're targeting software jobs, then obviously coding is important. I would say coding and personality are the main things. Then English comes secondary, but it should be kind of good enough so that you are able to explain your ideas to others.
The next question we have is, which programming languages are required? As there are many programming languages, so getting a job, which are the main programming language one should do?
See, basically, I would suggest to choose between C, C++, Java, or Python. Go with one language. Focus on one language. Basically, practice all your DSA in one language and clear the basics of that language. Know the in and outs. Know the basics. Know how does it run without lead code. Know how it runs on a simple computer with just your command prompt. You have to know those things. You can be asked those things. So focus on one language. And like if you're going for web development, you should know the languages that are needed there. Yeah, so that is my suggestion. I didn't actually focus on too many languages. I made my C++ very strong, and basically I used Python for ML. So I went with two languages.
Okay. The next question we have is, how is the culture at Microsoft? Can anyone talk to anyone? Are there networking opportunities? Are there field trips? And what is the community offset?
So I would say the culture at Microsoft is very good. It's awesome actually. It's very easy to reach out for help. Once you start reaching out, the other person makes you so comfortable that you will be able to reach out for help easily. And your team and your manager always pushes you to do the best. And basically they are focused on your career, that you should be growing in your career. Microsoft's main aim is a growth mindset, and that kind of growth comes only through learning. So you have ample opportunities to network, to connect, and everything. My managers, and this something called empathy that is very deeply ingrained in everyone. Whenever my manager starts a meeting, his first question is if everyone is fine, if everyone at home is fine. So that kind of culture really impresses you. And every time he encourages me to push my boundaries and to demonstrate my learnings and to kind of map my career. And you can easily connect with anyone. Actually, we have a whole Teams channel, and you can easily connect with anyone. You can just search for anyone and message them, and they would reply to you. So I'm not sure about the field trips since I've started my work remotely. So yeah.
We have another question. It is a very common question. Minimum laptop specifications required to do programming. What are the minimum specifications you needed when you started your coding?
Basically, a laptop with a good memory and maybe a good GPU might help. Otherwise, we have cloud these days. So yeah, people can easily deploy things in cloud and it's okay. But one thing is, if you're sitting for interviews and everything, you should have a laptop that there is a functional camera, because you would need it in your coding tests, you would need it in your coding interviews. So it should have a functional camera and microphone.
And I also just wanted to ask, is costly laptops really required, or a person with a nominal budget can also do coding, or we do have to buy a costly laptop to do programming?
No, I don't think you really have to buy because basically there are so many things available online, right? There's so many compilers, online compilers and everything. You can just use them, and you can deploy your apps through cloud. And even for machine learning, many times I used Kaggle actually for running my models. So you don't have to buy a very hefty and very kind of, it's fine. You can do it in a normal laptop as well.
Okay, thank you. So now the online questions are done. Now we will ask everyone in this meeting, if you want to ask any question, first type it in the chat box, then we will call your name and then you can ask. So we have plenty questions. First question is from Jatin. What pathway would you recommend to first year student to get placed as soon as it is possible, be it in second or third year, and that too in FANG? Also roadmap for internship first year.
Okay, I don't know if I would be a good person to recommend what should you do in the first year, since I wasn't able to crack any internships during my second or third year. But yeah, I would recommend you to get started with the coding, focus on DSA, because when you're in second or third year, you're not really expected that you have some big projects or you have some experience. It's expected that you have a good hold on DSA. So I would suggest in most of the colleges, DSA is taught in, I guess, second semester or third semester. So I would just kind of tell you to know the language properly. Like if you're going with C++, then you should know all the basics of C++, the STL library and everything. And then you should focus on DSA and maybe OOPS. OOPS is object-oriented programming. So yeah, so I would suggest you to focus on these two things, OOPS and DSA. I think that should be enough to get an internship in second or third year.
I hope, Jatin, your query is solved. Guys, if you really want to ask a question, you can switch on your camera, unmute yourself and ask. It's not a big issue. But if you want to write it in the chat box, then it's fine. The second question is from Samradhi. Is it necessary to be a BTech student or be a coder to be in Microsoft? I am from BA Honors Psychology. I can get a job or internship in Microsoft.
I'm not really sure. But yeah, obviously there are a lot of other things that you can explore. If you are a coder, then you would become a software engineer or maybe a data scientist or something. But obviously there are a lot of other jobs, like there are HR jobs and a lot of other jobs. So maybe you could go for one of those. And if someone has a background different from BTech and all, I would suggest, because most of the MNCs do have a filter criteria with the BTech degree, and sometimes even branches matter, and CGPA also. So I would suggest is just get some kind of job at the end of your course, or nowadays from what I'm seeing is there are a lot of companies in India, basically good startups offering good packages. So if you really want to be in an MNC or be in FANG so bad, then basically what you can do is you can start with those companies, and maybe then you can switch. At that point of time when you switch, only your skills would matter, your qualifications won't matter. And you can even if you would just go to the job portals of these companies, like you could go to Careers Microsoft, and you would know, you can see the job descriptions required. So yeah, you would see that after some time only skills matter, your qualifications don't matter.
Now we have another question from Sirajul, and he's asking, competitive coding experience is important?
If you ask me, I never did any competitive coding. I have just CodeChef and Codeforces handle for namesake, because we needed to submit at some places. But from my side, I won't say that competitive coding experience is important. But obviously, if you are solving problems and if you really like it, then obviously you should go for it. I would just do what you really love doing. If you love development, then focus a bit on DSA and do development. If you love competitive coding, then do competitive coding. But don't forget that you have to build some projects as well. Only competitive coding or only web development won't get you into a MNC, at least as a fresher.
Okay. One question is from Moneshwar. Recommend some resources for DSA.
Okay. So basically, I have written this whole blog where I have kind of told my journey as well. I've sent the link in the chat. I don't know if you can pin it or something. So basically, at the end of this, you will find I have mentioned a lot of resources, Muneshwar. At the end of this article, I have mentioned a number of resources. You can see them. And basically, I was just Geeks for Geeks, Lead Code, Practice DS on those platforms.
Okay. I hope, Moneshwar, your doubt is clear, and you can just click the link and get your doubt cleared. Another question is from Atul Kumar. Ma'am, any suggestion for getting placed in Apple as manufacturing design engineering manager?
No, I don't think I would have any suggestions since I never really went for exploring for exploring EC opportunities. And manufacturing, no, I can't give you any suggestions really.
Okay, ma'am. There is another question from Dheeraj. Any suggestion on embedded system? I am from ECE.
On embedded systems, like basically I worked as a project intern for software for embedded systems. But if you kind of just ask about embedded systems, then I'm not sure. There are, from what I know, there are not many opportunities in India at least in design in like EC fields and all. But yeah, like Collins Aerospace is a company you can try maybe for embedded systems. That's something I can suggest.
Okay. We have another question from the WhatsApp. He is asking that the BTech biotechnology field is very different from other BTech courses. Like most of students in this are from biology background. So what chances or opportunity do we have as a biotechnology student to get in Microsoft in the future? If there is any, then at what extent should we learn programming or coding just as a side skills?
I think like if you are already in BTech, then you have a good chance of cracking some kind of internship or coding or software related internship or placement by the end. What I would suggest you is like since your branch is already different, you would have to kind of focus more. You would have to bring more to the table maybe. Like you know, your coding skills should really be exceptional for you to be placed or something. Because first of all, you won't get that many chances, and you have to use the limited number of chances you already have to crack something. So you can't really afford to miss any chances in that case. That's what I would tell you.
Okay, ma'am. There is another question from Utkarsh. Roadmap for data analyst or a data scientist?
For data analyst, there's not really a roadmap. I think you can just apply for data analyst position starting now. Most of the companies just require you to do some basic data scraping and analyzing. So maybe you could kind of start with some online course and build a small project that shows your data analysis skills. As for data scientist, I didn't really work as a data scientist, but I would suggest is some experience as a data analyst, as a software engineer might help. And your coding skills should be good, your math should be good, and obviously your machine learning part should also be good. Because Python and R both have a lot of inbuilt libraries. So what do companies need you exactly for? What companies need you to do is basically help design a model that could fit somewhere, that could help solve a problem, right? So that's what I would suggest you is to first kind of know the basics of a programming language. I would strongly suggest Python. Then kind of explore the mathematics around all the machine learning algorithms. start learning machine learning, know the different kinds of algorithms, supervised, unsupervised algorithms, then you should know that what is the mathematics that is basically going on behind this algorithm. Because people sometimes ask basic things, and you should know that. So that's the kind of roadmap I would suggest.
Rehan, your voice is not in. Your voice is not audible. Sorry, everyone. There is another question from Aditya. Is there any career for cybersecurity at Microsoft?
Recently, I saw that Microsoft actually launched a program for promoting cybersecurity roles. So maybe you could look at that program. And I think there are a lot of roles for cybersecurity in Microsoft.
Okay, ma'am. There is another question. There is another question from
Excuse me?
Saikat.
Sorry to interrupt, ma'am. I have asked question that please tell me some companies that will give winter internship in data analyst role.
I am not really sure of some companies, but like I worked at a startup named ClueTrack Software Labs. Maybe you could look there. They do offer a good stipend as well. It was around 15,000 for me.
Which company, ma'am? Sorry.
I'll just type it in the chat. I think that would be more clear.
Ma'am, if I have to apply data analyst role at Microsoft, then I also have to be good in data section and algorithms.
I don't think so, and I'm not really sure if they do have data analyst positions. You can just kind of search on their careers portal, maybe.
Any good data analyst projects you can suggest me?
Good data analyst projects. Data analyst projects basically come in handy when you are kind of solving some problem, right? You have to build a model later on, and so basically what I would suggest is maybe start with the data science, and then the initial part that you do for data science, right? You collect some data, and then you use the data to analyze certain things. So that is a good project I would suggest.
I hope, Sahil, your doubt is clear.
Thank you, Rehan sir.
Thank you.
Okay, just a minute. So I basically looked up. There are some kind of data analyst positions open in Microsoft as well. So yeah, maybe you could try here.
Thank you, ma'am.
Shall I carry on, ma'am?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. There is a question from Pradeep Singh. Ma'am, I am not pursuing engineering, but I am from BSc IT. This is similar. I do have all coding subjects and networking, but after all, it is not an BTech degree. So can I get an internship or get placed in these MNCs like Microsoft and Amazon?
Basically, like if you open the career portal of MNC companies and you look at the qualifications for freshers at least, then they do have a necessary qualification for a BTech degree. In many times they will limit the branch to CS and all. So what I would suggest is there are a lot of good startups coming up in India that really do not require your qualifications and all, educational qualifications and all, like Unacademy and all. Unacademy, I think CRED as well, and they do offer very good packages as well. So maybe you could start your career from there, and later on when you have the experience, and if you really want to, then maybe you could switch to some MNC.
Okay. There is one question from Saikat. Ma'am, I would like to ask, after completing BTech, how much it is worth to do MTech?
Uh, I would say that like if you really want to go for some research opportunities, or maybe if you were not really able to get any kind of job after BTech, although I won't suggest like not being able to get a job, and that should not be a motivation for an MTech. It should be kind of, you want to explore the field more, you want to go into deep in a particular specialization, so that should be your aim for an MTech. So it is worth if you are trying to gather knowledge about a particular field, and mostly after doing an MTech, you would be kind of offered higher designations, I would say. So yeah, maybe like you can go for MTech if you really want to get specialized in something. And one thing I would suggest is if you're doing an MTech, you should do it from kind of some top colleges, because I don't think otherwise it's really worth it doing an MTech, and then because even after that, if you need a job and all, so yeah, so it's better to go for an MTech in a good college. That's what I would suggest.
There is a question from Chandan. Ma'am, what was your approach while doing DSA? Like, how many questions on every topic?
Okay. So basically, when I started DSA, I would mostly do questions based on arrays and vectors, and linked lists, trees, stacks, queues, and all these things are there, right? And so this sheet called Striver's sheet, or you could just reference Lovebubber's DSA sheet. Both these sheets are very good, but the thing is, you should not be using these sheets to learn new topics. These sheets should be something that are used for revision. What you can in fact do is, you could go to InterviewBit, and they actually have buckets designed for every kind of DSA topic. You could use those buckets and practice all different kinds of DSA problems in a particular topic. Like if you are going for stacks, so there can be many kinds of problems, like reversing a string using a stack, or balancing parentheses, or balancing symbols, or infix or postfix. Now, if all of a sudden you are presented with the infix to postfix or prefix conversion, you won't even know what is infix and postfix, right? So you need to have some kind of practice regarding those questions as well. So I would suggest to go to InterviewBit, and you would on your own, you would be able to see that there are different kinds of buckets for every topic. Like there's a topic by the name of arrays, and there are different kinds of questions related to those topics. So, and how many questions is not something you should be actually looking at. As long as your concepts regarding that particular thing are clear, that should be the number of questions you should be going for. Like if you have solved around 3 questions on that particular topic, and you are now trying to solve more, 4 or 5 or 6. So if you are able to get the intuition, if you are able to get the solution for those 4th, 5th and 6th questions on your own, then that means you are on the way to mastering that particular topic. So number of questions would vary for every person, would vary according to their understanding, would vary according to their how much work they are putting in, how much effort they are putting in. So that should not be the measure for knowing how good you are in DSA. The measure should be the quality of questions. Like if you are solving a particular question, how much you are able to solve it on your own. And if you are not able to solve it on your own, then go to the discussion tabs of that particular question and read the discussions, read the various solutions, and you would see that you can, like, your thinking gets really evolved by actually looking at the solutions of other people.
I think everyone's doubt is clear by now. Yeah, you're audible.
Yeah, Justin, you're audible. I'm not really sure about the internship programs at Microsoft because I was never a part of them. But for Engage, basically Engage is a mentorship program that leads you to landing a full-time internship or a full-time role with Microsoft. So DSA is something very much required for you to be able to solve the first coding test to get through it. But projects and all would help you to get shortlisted as well, because I recently referred a lot of people. I actually referred a number of people for Microsoft Engage internship program, and not Engage internship. I referred them for Microsoft Engage full-time program. So mostly all of them had projects, and all of them had internships, or they had good rating in Codeforces or something at least in their resume. As for a second year student, I would suggest that DSA is good enough. So yeah, just I think DSA is good enough for a second year student. Which one? I am not aware of this program, or maybe I just a minute. Okay. Is that the program which was started recently, where they were kind of okay? You are talking about the ambassador program. Okay, so ambassadors are basically campus ambassadors. What they do is they help spread the word about Microsoft in your campus. That how is the culture at Microsoft, or basically they hold different kinds of sessions on various kinds of topics. So those are kind of learning communities that you can really. It's a good thing to go for if you want to really. Referral from me. Okay, you can just message me and I would try to refer you. But so far I've referred a number of people and those referrals have not really been successful from what I know. So I don't know like how do they actually decide. But yeah, if you will ask me, I will refer you.
Okay, there is a question from Kuldeep Verma. Does specialization matter in CSC? If it does, then which one?
I don't think like yeah, like it doesn't really matter. Like if you are from CSC, you would be getting ample number of opportunities. Maybe a few companies once in a while won't let you apply, but I don't think really very few companies matter. If you're from CSC, you will be getting enough number of opportunities.
Yeah, there was a question from Nitesh also. Nitesh, if you want to unmute yourself and ask, you can do so. Or else type it that I can read out your query.
Okay, I actually saw Nitesh's question in the online thing.
Yeah, so I will read it out, ma'am.
No, I know the question. Okay, so basically, okay. Nitesh, the thing is, I think you are enjoying DSA a lot. That's a good thing. You're also good in development from the question that you gave. I saw that you said that you're good in front-end development. So the thing is, you should be doing development because your lead code profile or your CodeChef profile or your Codeforces profile won't be the only thing getting you shortlisted for the coding test. You should have some kind of experience to demonstrate that, yeah, I have done some project, I have done some internship. So I would suggest is like if you have thoroughly practiced DSA now, then maybe you could just practice it for some portion of time and start doing development for some portion of time. Like I would suggest you to go and build some projects actually. Does that solve your query, Nitesh?
You can write in the chat box, Nitesh. Yeah. Shivam is asking for your LinkedIn ID, ma'am.
Yeah, sure.
If anyone else is having any query, you can message it or in the chat box. I think everyone's doubt is clear. Thank you so much, ma'am, for for joining us in this session and enlightening us and clearing our doubts. Thank you so much, ma'am.
You're welcome, Rihan.
And guys, you have been an amazing audience. Thank you so much. Thank you, guys.
Thank you everyone for attending. All the best.